fighting for local jobs, as the coalition plans to remove the need for workers to have a 457 visa for offshore oil and gas.
The visa issue that we're currently before the High Court on has been a sustained and complex attack by the foreign multinationals and their friends in the Australian Liberal Party.
And it doesn't stop there.
No caps on visas. The way she's putting it across is they don't even need a visa now, so, what are we going to have here?
With plans to abolish the need for employers to look local first, workers worry for our future economy.
This union then went and lobbied the Australian government and asked for a set of laws that would give offshore workers the same rights as onshore workers, and that is, if a company seeks to employ foreign labour in the offshore oil and gas industry, they need to make sure there's no Australians available to do that work first. And if a genuine shortage is established, then any labour that's brought in to work in this country will be paid the same rates and conditions as Australian workers, to take away the economic incentive for the employment of foreign labour. When the Liberal government came to power, they moved to overturn those laws that Labor put in place by simply removing the clause that said it applied to anyone. This union ran a sustained, complex lobbying campaign in Canberra, where not only we got the Labor Party on side, but we got the Greens and 6 crossbench senators.
We spent a lot of time in Canberra talking to the crossbenchers, and they get it. They generally get it.
Thank you, Minister.
In a vote in the Senate voted 35 to 31 to support the jobs of Australian seafarers in the offshore oil and gas industry. The very next day, Michaelia Cash, leading the Australian Liberal government at the time, overturned that decision with the stroke of a pen.
And what we say here to Michaelia Cash is we want this decision by you reversed. We want Australian jobs first.
At the time, Senator Michaelia Cash addressed a skilled migration conference, outlining the changes to be made to the 457 visas.
We're amazed at how she can overturn a Senate decision in respect to the federal parliament. We may as well not have a parliament.
We challenged that decision by Michaelia Cash in the federal court before a single judge of the full bench. Unfortunately, we lost that case. We then appealed it to a full bench of the federal court, and we ended up winning that case. A very good campaign by this union, a very good legal campaign. Again, the very next day, Michaelia Cash, on behalf of the federal Liberal government and its mates in big oil and gas, and with the stroke of a pen sought to remove our right to work. We've now had to take that to the High Court, and all we're asking the High Court to do is to support the legislation that was put in place to guarantee the rights of Australian seafarers to continue to work in their own industry, and to also support the will of the Senate that decided to support Australian seafaring jobs in the offshore oil and gas industry.
Michaelia Cash, I implore you to reverse this late decision because it's going to have so much impact on the youth, so much impact.
So here you have a minister that doesn't like the legislation that a previous government introduced, decides to change it, gets stopped by the Senate because it's unreasonable, unfair, and doesn't like the decision of the Senate. She's then challenged in the legal jurisdictions of this country, doesn't like the decision of the court, and continues to change it anyway. Now, if that's not arrogance, and that is not hatred of workers, particularly maritime workers, well, I don't know what is.
This is the razor end of these people, and the gall and the hide of them. They're so blatantly anti-Australian worker and so much regard to the powerful elites and the corporations that are running this country that they can just go out there and replace a whole workforce in a highly productive, high performance, high cost and high safety environment and just replace them with a foreign workforce. And then when they can't get it through the parliament, go and do it anyway. So don't give a bugger about democracy. Stuff democracy. It's a pretty big insight for everybody about the way they're going to run Australia when they control everything.
The 457 is about creating a second class of citizenship.
We've gone to the High Court because if what they're doing isn't illegal, if what they're doing isn't unjust, we know it's immoral, we know it's not in the public interest. I mean, this is taxpayers' assets. They're out there in the oil industry. Chevron is exploiting something that you and I, everybody in the room, every taxpayer in this country owns. They're only out there operating it. And you've got a government in Canberra that are down there saying, well, we can't work on the asset, you can't get anything out of the asset, and they're going to replace Australian taxpayers in that industry, and they're doing it by exploiting a loophole, and when they get caught up in the parliament, they say, bugger it, Michaela Cash, gonna do it anyway. Well, not for me, you won't. Not for the MUA, you won't. Not for maritime workers, you won't. And if there is any justice in law, the High Court's going to fight for us.